Put down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TOGCHAT Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tips, and your photography questions in real time, with answers from your host, Olympus Visionary Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, it's Wednesday, so it must be time for our weekly photography chat. Thanks for joining me for the live YouTube edition of TOGCHAT. As you know, my mission is to help photographers like you to develop a better understanding of the hows and whys behind great photography. Now, before we get going, I need all of you, please take a moment, tell your photography friends that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. You already know that Twitter and Facebook are the fastest ways to get the word out. You can go ahead and hit that share button. It is right down like there, or you can share the link TOGCHAT/live. I just shared that in the chat window for you, so go ahead, use it, please share it. And the cool part, we've got photographers tuning in from all over the world right now. You know that's the part that excites me the most, so please take a moment, check in, leave a comment, let me know you're here and where you're watching from. And of course, be sure to start posting your questions for tonight's TOG Q&A. As always, I will do my best to answer all of your questions in the next 60 minutes. So here we are, COVID-19, coronavirus. It's officially a pandemic. People are getting sick. Unfortunately, some are dying. There's no hand sanitizer. Heck, there's no toilet paper. And no, this conversation is not going to be about the sky is falling or the world is ending. The fact is that this situation is beginning to have a major impact on our industry, the photography industry. And there is absolutely no reason to think that it is not going to get worse before it gets better. So let me begin and take a moment, please, just to offer my prayers and my sympathies to those who have been directly affected and to offer my wishes and hopes to all of you that you will be smart and remain diligent in your efforts to stay healthy until the situation is resolved. So this conversation will not be about the medical aspects of COVID-19. So please, gang, let's keep it real. Any comments in the chat or below the video about the medical side of the problem or the political side of the problem, they will be deleted. I strongly suggest to you that you avoid the mainstream media. Do your own research by referring to the CDC websites and the WHO, the World Health Organization websites, and of course, listen to your local medical professionals. So, in case you are not aware, if you've been living under a rock, I want to talk to you about some of the ways that this virus is impacting our industry, and also preferably spend a little bit more time, and also some of our conversation when I'm done, talking about solutions. What do you do? Especially if you're a photographer that pays all or part of your bills with your cameras. So let me give you a few examples to start. Like many other industries, trade shows are being canceled all over the world. And of course, it makes national headlines when events like South by Southwest in Austin and Coachella get canceled or postponed. But in our industry, CP Plus in Tokyo, one of the largest photography trade shows in the world, was canceled. The photography show in the UK, which is the biggest photo trade show in the UK, made the last-minute decision to postpone this week's show until September. The pro show for ProMaster dealers that was scheduled to begin tomorrow in Illinois has been canceled. Late this morning, it was announced that the NAB show scheduled for next month in Las Vegas has been canceled. This news came after many of the larger vendors had already announced that they were not going to attend the show. Not to mention that it's also impacting the smaller, the regional photography events. Next month, Shutterfest, scheduled in St. Louis. Well, it's not just up to Sal Sincata to decide if he wants to hold his event. I'm sure he does. But there's the strong possibility that by that time, the Union Hotel where the event is being hosted or the city of St. Louis, both of whom are hosting the event, will say no to a gathering of that size. Smaller photography events are being canceled. The Olympus Capturing Light Tour that I was a part of, along with my fellow visionary Peter Baumgarten, they've canceled the next 4 dates, including my planned trip to Sacramento later this week. So for those of you in Sacramento, I'm sorry, but our meeting will have to wait for another time. These events were being held at camera stores, but because of the likelihood of having 50 or more people in one small place, based on the CDC recommendations, the decision was made to cancel them. Unfortunately, I've even canceled my workshops that I had planned for next month at my studio here in Allentown. Not because I'm afraid of the virus or getting sick, but because I can't afford, as a small businessman, to assume the liability of bringing people together at an event in my studio. Already there are lawsuits against the cruise lines, not by the people who got sick, but by people who are suing because they were on a ship with sick people. It's worth noting that cameras, including new releases from Canon, Nikon, and Fuji, they're being delayed due to crucial parts being manufactured or cameras being assembled in China, which of course is believed to be where the virus originated. Even more importantly, and this is where we really get to the crux of the conversation tonight, folks, working photographers, most of whom are self-employed studio owners or freelancers, are having assignments canceled. In many weeks, and even months worth of work gone, potentially never to be made up. I polled the members of my Facebook group this afternoon from all around the world, and already there are event shooters who have weeks worth of events canceled in advance. Photo booth entrepreneurs losing thousands of dollars in bookings from canceled events like weddings and trade shows, you name it. Wedding photographers are already receiving cancellations from couples who have decided to get married in front of only immediate family and cancel or postpone any celebrations with extended family and friends. Sporting events are being canceled, meaning lost wages for the photographers that cover them. School proms, fundraising events, campaign events, and the list keeps growing. All of these cancellations mean lost wages for the photographers that work these events. It's ironic, other YouTubers have done videos about this topic, and all they could talk about was how camera companies are going to lose money and make predictions about how this will all turn out. And yet, ironically, they show no concern or remorse or worries or fears or offer no help or assistance to the people who watch their videos that are actually going to be losing money in the process. It's unfortunate. At a time like this, even portrait photographers, family portrait photographers, newborn photographers, boudoir photographers are seeing a downturn in bookings because people in general are losing wages. And these types of images, let's face it, are not crucial to survival. They fall under the category of disposable income, which dries up in times like this. Real estate is slowing down, meaning less work for real estate shooters. Photographers who handle corporate portraits and advertising work are seeing a slowdown in bookings as many major companies are having employees work from home and non-essential work. It's being postponed. Now, some of you may be saying this is why a photographer's contract should always have a cancellation or a kill fee. Well, you know what? I agree that a photographer should always have a cancellation policy or a kill fee in their contract. However, in this situation, you don't want to lose a client over one cancellation or kill fee. Freelance photographers, all of you, need to understand that long-term relationships matter. The clients that you're dealing with, they're struggling with the same virus just like you are. Invoicing them over a cancellation is not going to create much goodwill. And I don't care if we're talking about invoicing a small mom and pop shop or a major corporation. They're all dealing with the same problem. So What should you be doing as a photographer during this, honestly, very challenging time? The photography blogs and other YouTubers are spending all that time talking about, things going wrong and making the predictions. But you have my word. From this point forward, I'm going to leave all the gloom and doom to them. Let's begin talking about some of the positive things that should be happening. And what I would love to hear you folks and read you folks typing in the comments, because I see a lot of people telling me about cancellations, about jobs they're lost. We're all there, gang. And by the way, for those of you that just shoot for fun, hang tight. I haven't forgotten about you. You're a very big part of this conversation. But what I would love to see is suggestions. If you are a working photographer, I don't care if it's part-time or full-time, what are you planning to do to help your business be sustainable? Share your ideas. I'm going to share some ideas right now for all of you and some concepts that I really want you to get your heads wrapped around. But folks, we're all in this together. So share it. So I'm going to break this into two categories as we talk about these positive things that you should all be working on. Category one, those of you who are making money as photographers. I don't care if it's part-time or full-time, it doesn't matter. If you are running a business. And the other category, those of you who are passionate about shooting for fun. Both categories are extremely important, and both categories are being severely impacted by this crisis that we are all facing. So if your income relies on money made from photography, the first piece of advice that I would give you is to not get caught up in the news media hype. It is safe to assume that the statements that are made by the CDC and the World Health Organization warning that the situation will get worse before it gets better, safe to assume those are accurate. That means we have to do what great photographers instinctively do. They look for ways to solve problems. My career in photography, which has lasted for longer than I care to think about, it has taught me that there will always be ups and downs. When the economy is tight, it just means that I have to work harder for every assignment that I get and for every dollar that I earn. No different than anyone else in any other business or industry. When the economy has been tough, I have made it a point to always be willing to accept assignments that I would not normally agree to do in order to make ends meet and in order to build new relationships and to sustain relationships. It's called survival. It's what you do. It is important as a business person, especially as a solo entrepreneur or the owner of a small business with just a few employees. It is important to remain flexible and be nimble. Be willing to adapt. Don't wait because it's here. It's happening now. Now is the time to adapt. You should be planning for the worst, hoping for the best. Many of you know that my wife is a college professor. Her school announced yesterday that they're closing the campus this Friday and sending all of their students home. They will continue their classes online for at least the next month, and honestly, it will probably be the rest of the school year. I doubt they will wind up bringing students back to campus at the pace things are going. Beginning next week, my wife will teach her classes from right here, where I am, using Zoom rooms. It's all about being able to adapt. So her students are still going to get their education. Unfortunately, they're just not going to get it face-to-face. But they will still be able to graduate on time, their credits will move forward, etc. So here's the reality. Regardless of all the fears, regardless of all the hype that stokes so many of these fears, regardless of the reality of how dangerous and what the potential is of this pandemic, life and business will continue. But it is going to slow down. And consumers of all types will be much more selective in who they work with and how they spend their money. So honestly, the photographers who survive this, they will be the ones who are willing to step up their game, go the extra mile for their clients. The photographers who survive will not be the ones who feel entitled and who spend their time bitching on social media about how bad things are and how awful clients are because they won't spend money. I can't even begin to tell you how often I see photographers doing that. And indeed already, in the last week or so, it's gotten worse. The photographers who survive this and keep their business intact and even make their business stronger are the ones that will have their heads down. And they will be working relationships. Working relationships with past clients and potential new clients. Why? Because they understand that the true value in their photography, and please listen to this closely, the true value in their photography has little to do with their photographs. Little to do with their photographs. It has everything to do with the experience and service that they provide their customers. The photographers who survive this will not only work harder and longer to keep their business afloat, but they will use the downtime to practice, to challenge themselves, to work towards building new skill sets that will help them survive now and then help them prosper when this threat is over and the economy returns. So think about that. Now is not the time where we sit back and we put our feet up and we mope because business is tough and life is hard. Now is the time that we work harder than ever. Now is the time that you find out what you're really made of. Because it is still possible to do business. It is still possible to make money. And when you are not busy, you should be working, practicing, developing, creating. Do not stop. For you photographers who are passionate about shooting for fun, my advice to you, keep doing what you're doing. In fact, probably do more of it. Don't slow down. If you get extra time off of work because of the virus, well then, you know what? Put it to use with your camera. Even if you generally shoot events that have larger gatherings and they get canceled, use that time to shoot other genres of photography to expand your experience level and your skill sets, just like the pros should be doing. Those new skill sets that you learn shooting a different genre, they can usually be adapted to your own work, and the experience of doing it and the things that you will learn will change the way that you see things creatively. But whatever you do, keep shooting, keep practicing, keep learning. Lastly, what shouldn't you be doing right now? For starters, gang, don't give up. Come on. Remember that you are not the only person who is experiencing these struggles. We are all in this together. Please keep the public whining to a minimum and simply carry on. Don't participate, and I'm literally, if you follow me, if you listen to me, I am begging you from the bottom of my heart on this next one. Don't participate in all the product bashing and the sky is falling crap that is so prevalent here on YouTube and in the photography blogs. Remember that all of that senseless bashing of camera companies and predictions of companies going out of business only serves to make the prices higher on all the cameras and equipment that we need and we want. Please stop supporting these people that do that. They are hurting you. Look, we survive as an industry. We survive by helping each other out, by looking out for each other, by lifting each other up. We are all in this together. Consider that. Thanks for listening, and may this virus be over with much sooner than later. Hey, so that's my take, gang. Hopefully, I haven't had a chance to read all the comments that are going through here, but hopefully we got some good suggestions along the way. I am going to be, over the course of the next couple days, make sure you are following my Facebook, my website, and my Instagram stories. So I've got a couple new little things that I am going to start doing in the wake of all this. One of the things is I have, over time, we've talked about it here on TOGCHAT, gotten lots and lots of questions about marketing, photo marketing, things like that. And I'll be perfectly honest, my Instagram stories, it's a great utility, it's a great marketing tool on Instagram, and it's something that I have not used effectively. So I'm giving you some honest kind of self-evaluation of my marketing in that what I like to do, I like to keep my Instagram profile focused on just my finished work. So I don't post about my travels, and I don't have snapshots, and I don't post my dogs in my profile. But I'll use my Instagram story to, talk about where I'm going, what I'm doing, and all that. And honestly, I feel like sometimes it just comes across like a lot of bragging. Well, I'm here, I'm there, and all that stuff, and why do you care? Because honestly, you shouldn't care. So I want to start putting it to better use. So beginning tomorrow, I am going to start making daily posts, video posts, in my Instagram stories. These are not going to be fancy, high production things. They will be done from wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. Sometimes I'll be in Studio 2, sometimes I'll be here, sometimes I'll be in my office. Who knows? Sometimes I may do it while I'm walking the dogs. It doesn't matter. But the point is, I'm going to be sharing some little nuggets and little marketing nuggets and tips, and sometimes even just some motivational photography quotes to just keep pushing, to keep us going. We all need to do it. And honestly, selfishly, part of the reason I'm doing it is from some self-motivation myself. I've had a lot of work canceled. I've had a lot of trips canceled. I'm also looking at ways that I am going to sustain my business and the changes that I'm going to make, just like everybody else is. So part of my reason for wanting to do it, honestly, it's a little bit of self-motivation. So make sure you're checking in on that. Make sure that you're paying attention, because I'm going to do my darndest to make sure that I'm giving you some good, useful information. Okay? So I want to scroll back through. I do have a couple questions that came into my Facebook group earlier. I'll try my best to get to those, gang. But I just want to scroll back because I do think we had a couple questions and really, really interesting comments that came through. So I want to see, kind of what I've missed here. And I will, try and deal with some of those. Yeah, so actually, Timber Geek talking local camera clubs meetings are canceled. Interestingly enough, the local camera club here in the Lehigh Valley, they've kind of put everybody on notice. They haven't canceled their next meeting yet. The plan is still to move ahead, but they sent out a newsletter, and they have a very organized email newsletter program where, they're basically saying to people, listen, if you're not feeling well, if you're feeling off at all, please don't come. Please stay home, that type of thing. But for the time being, locally in our area, there have not been any restrictions on larger gatherings. So, they're still going ahead. But I'm not surprised, and especially since you mentioned that this particular camera club meets in a nursing home's recreational room, that's probably a good idea that they're not meeting. Let's see, Katie Rogers talking about the Boston Marathon. Yeah, I mean, ultimately it wouldn't surprise me, or it could wind up being like they're doing with a lot of the major sports where they run the marathon without spectators, which, let's face it, that would be kind of really weird. But that's how it is with these baseball, basketball, football games where this is happening. I mean, they just announced today that March Madness, NCAA tournaments are going to be played without fans. How weird is that going to be, right? But that's the reality that we're dealing with here. Yo B, 2 commercial jobs canceled, yeah, and there are going to be more. Like, I started out, obviously I talked about the wedding photographers and the event photographers and all that. This is going to impact every kind of photography. It simply is. Photographers that are dealing with major corporations, all of it, advertising people, Viking talking about newborn photographers. The simple reality of it is photography is, often it's kind of the afterthought. It's something that happens with disposable income. Economy is going to get tight. And yeah, I mean, in many cases, we are an afterthought, which means that as professional photographers, we have to work much harder to make sure that we are creating work that shows its worth. You can't, all these things, and folks, look, I love PPA, Professional Photographers of America, but they actually sent out a thing recently where it was a template that you could copy or paste to show your clients the benefits of having a picture done by a professional photographer instead of taking one with a cell phone. again, I love PPA, I support PPA, but I think that is the worst kind of marketing that you can ever do because it's bully marketing. It's simply bully marketing. The fact of the matter is if you have to justify to your clients why they should be hiring you, your work's not good enough. That's the only thing that's going on, gang. Your work's not good enough. The photographers that are out there that are making the big bucks, the ones that are at the top of the heap, they don't have to justify their work. People want them. They say, what's it going to cost? They write the check. Done. It's that simple. That's what you strive towards. And you keep striving towards that. But to think that you're going to be able to justify your costs and then people are just going to open up their wallets and give you money, that's ridiculous. And it's absolutely horrible advice that the PPA has been giving out to its members to do that. And again, I support PPA. It's a wonderful organization. But that was a really, really bad call on their part. And I stand by that advice. That is not the way to do marketing at all. Okay? Let's see here. Matthew, you were going to go to Birmingham. Yes, and unfortunately, that was kind of like a last-minute thing there. But I'm sure that even though it didn't happen publicly, they probably had a lot of pushback from various manufacturers and had to do what they had to do, right? It's just kind of part of the process. John Guest, going to invest in education. And actually, I want to talk a little bit about the education thing. Here's what I predict. Now, this is not a gloom and doom prediction, right? This is actually kind of a logical prediction just based on how people are, how people think. You're going to see a lot more people now start to offer online photography education, right? People that have not offered it in the past, which means it's going to suck. Statistically, in all likelihood, it's not going to be very good because it's rushed, put together, it hasn't been flushed out, hasn't been tested, etc. Right? The best kind of photography education that you can invest in, John Guest, and for the rest of you, go pick up your damn cameras and shoot something. And fail. Embrace failure. In fact, try to fail. And then take the time, actually take time, and look at your work and evaluate it. And ask yourself a simple question. The best question that you can ask to educate yourself, folks. It's so simple. When you were 3 or 4 years old, you asked this question. So much people beg you to stop asking this question. And what do? We grow up and we stop asking. The question, why? After you've embraced failure, or simply even though you didn't embrace failure, but the shot didn't work out and you're looking at it, it's like, oh, that's crap. Why? Why is it crap? Why don't I like it? What could I do differently? You would be amazed how much you will learn from that process. I promise you. But you got to try it. You have to sincerely give yourself to that concept. You will learn an incredible amount because, folks, that's how I taught myself photography as a kid. When there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there was no Google. It was back in the dark ages. That's how we did it. And it worked. Just saying, right? So let's see. Ricardo, probably a good opportunity to make some extra money on related stock images. Obviously, stock is tough, but there's kind of two ways to look at that because, there's not a lot of money in stock today unless you are in a situation where you're shooting millions and millions and millions of images. And I'm not exaggerating, folks, when I say millions. Like, I'm really not. Shooting stock images and making like $2 an image in many cases. However, if you have the ability to shoot stock images, to practice, to try new genres, to keep yourself shooting, and to build your skill set, then heck yeah, that's an awesome concept, right? So, Ricardo, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's all a matter of making sure that you realize, hey, look, you're probably not going to pay your bills on the stock images you shoot now, but you can be building that library for that passive income that comes from stock photography sales while you are practicing. So use that to make sure that you are really building new skills and developing skills that you've been wanting to work on. And then, awesome idea. Absolutely. Okay? Samuel, hoping that everyone is saved up for a rainy day. Now's the time to buy non-perishables before panic. So we're going to forget about your non-perishables comment. But, here's one thing that's worth mentioning. For those of you that are making money as photographers, whether you're doing it part-time or full-time, this was a number that was taught to me way back when. So let me put out a disclosure. First, never take financial or legal advice from some guy on YouTube, right? So I certainly would encourage you to take this number and talk to a financial advisor, et cetera. But It was taught to me many, many, many years ago when I was starting out in business and running my own business that I should make it a goal to set aside 5 to 10% of my income for essentially rainy day, for disaster, towards retirement, etc. If you're not doing that, you're really kind of setting yourself up to fail, because then the world takes a turn like it's taking right now, and you're not prepared. You've got no backup, right? And then you better be ready to work even harder yet. So it's going to be kind of hard to start that process now because of the nature of things, because now, unfortunately, is when you should be tapping into that reserve created from that 5 to 10%. But it's just something that is a very good habit and ritual to establish. And depending on your goals for life and retirement, you may want to even go with a higher percentage. That's why I say speak with a financial advisor. Okay? Let's see. Eric, any idea? I apologize, guys. I haven't been putting the questions up on the screen. Let me slide them up here. Any idea how much damage 0 to 100% may be caused by using disinfecting wipes on camera bodies and lenses? They recommend using them on keyboards and cell phones, so I think gear as well. So, okay, let's be really clear. Disinfecting wipes on camera lenses? No. No. Never. Eric, I have a video on my YouTube channel, okay? Here, let me just get this for you. In fact, I'll switch the screen over here. There's the channel. When you go to the channel, I'll share the link, but if you go to the magnifying glass, type in lens cleaning, and I do a very detailed background or breakdown of how to clean your lenses. Best way to clean a lens. No, I don't want it in a queue. Let me get you the link address here. I will put this in the chat window for you guys. So here's the thing, Eric. I don't think that it would be a problem for you to clean your camera bodies with disinfectant wipes, provided that they're not too wet. Like I use the Clorox wipes for lots of stuff. And, sometimes you pull them out, especially when you're down towards the end of the container. They're like really soaking wet and dripping. That's not a good time. But, the first ones you get out, they're kind of damp, right? I see no reason why that would do any damage to a camera body, but definitely not the optics of a lens. You can use it carefully on the outside of the lens. The flip side of it is, keep in mind, you really shouldn't have your lens coming in contact with things that would potentially carry the virus in the first place. The lens, the glass, right? So there's no reason to use those disinfectant wipes on that glass. Use the directions that you'll find in that video that I've just shared, okay? Warren Rowe, looking at doing more landscape and stock photography. Sure. John, selling more prints. And remember, guys, even, you guys that are talking about doing more stock, doing more landscape, selling more prints, I'm not discouraging you. I'm saying go for it. But don't just think you're going to go set up some profile somewhere and people are going to start buying your pictures. Everybody's going to be struggling very soon because they're not going to be working. And while major corporations may be able to continue paying employees, and while a lot of major corporations, my son's company, he works for a pharmaceutical company, they're probably going to be told to work from home very soon. They're still, in the office at this point, but he'll still be able to work. He'll still be able to do his job. A lot of smaller businesses are not going to be able to support employees that long. So the challenge is disposable income it's going to dry up. So I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm saying, yes, anything that you're doing, any positive steps you're doing, right? The first step to being successful in business, right? In other words, thinking as an entrepreneur is to try things, to have ideas. So by no means am I shooting these ideas down, but I just want to make sure that you are also being realistic. Don't settle in on one idea and just go with tunnel vision. You need to be looking at lots of different things. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been proposing ideas to Olympus for things that I could be doing with them. I'm going in 50 directions right now because my philosophy is let's try all 50. The ones that don't work, discard them. The ones that do, keep moving forward, keep paying bills, keep surviving, keep being successful. That's the idea, right? So I'm not just going to settle in on one and then leave it there, okay? Let's see. Just scrolling on down here. What do we got? So Matthew Fear, and this is essentially what I was saying, so I completely agree with you. I think now is the time to focus on past customers and plan future shoots with clients, reassuring them you'll be there when things get better. And indeed, it's relationships, gang. You have to, this is the time especially to learn. If you're not good at it, now's the time to learn. And if you are good at it, now's the time to really up your game. Nurture your relationships with your clients. Now is the time. I don't think it's been more important in my lifetime, in all honesty. I've been through several recessions as a photographer. I've been through the ups and downs and all that kind of stuff. I don't think, we're not really feeling it yet. We're going to feel it. That's not scare tactic. That's just saying, look, all of the medical people are being very clear. Forget what you hear the politicians say. Forget what you hear the media say. All the medical people are saying the same thing. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And at some point, and again, no politics, folks. So keep politics out of this conversation. If we look even at what they've done in China, we can blame China for this whole thing. Blame's not going to help anything at this point. But China took very, very aggressive steps to isolate things, to lock things down, to separate people. And now their numbers are already starting to dip. Right? So, it's like that lesson we learn at some point in life, the best defense is a good offense. At some point, we need to take the offense with this. And we're not. We're actually not in our country. So the bottom line is, this is going to get worse. From a financial standpoint, people are going to struggle. We all are. So, you have to anticipate that and you have to work through it. This is the kind of thing, as a business person, you cannot afford to just react to markets. You cannot afford to react to changes. You have to be going through things with your head up. You have to be looking ahead. And you have to be willing to take some chances and make some mistakes. But you've got to have more than one idea. Don't just get locked in on one concept. That's extremely risky. Extremely risky. Okay? Yo B, another good example. I kind of touched on this. It's a good time to refresh your reel, your portfolio, plan test shoots, fill in the gaps. Absolutely. So, again, the bottom line is be productive. Stay productive. This does not mean that you get to take a vacation. That's just a really, really bad idea. Right? It just is. So, got to stay positive. Okay. Let's see here. Scrolling on down here. Okay, sorry. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything that's important here. Wow, Scranton, Pennsylvania, they just postponed St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, Stephen, it's definitely it's impacting Pennsylvania. Like I mentioned, my wife's college is shut down. In fact, all the colleges here in the Lehigh Valley, Muhlenberg College, Lafayette College, Lehigh College, Penn State, they're shutting down by the end of the week. So, and that's going to happen, across the country. I expect, and I hope, honestly, I hope that they all shut down, right? I mean, once again, we've got to get ahead of this. Okay, so, it's just really important. So, all right, let me see here. Scrolling on down. Oh, Eric, referring to the lens and body, not the glass. Glad to hear that, Eric. Okay, so yeah, I see no reason why. I just would be really careful not to use a really wet one. You notice some other people make comments about, alcohol, rubbing alcohol, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can use that as well. But watch that video. It will help you. There's some really good, information in there, not just for the glass, but also for the cameras and that kind of stuff. So, Alvin, I was thinking that car dealerships might need a photographer to push selling cars online. Maybe companies trying to sell products online versus going into the brick and mortar. So, Alvin, I think that's a great thought process. So let me push back. I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. Let's flush out your idea. So as far as car dealerships go, I think the challenge that you will have is that I happen to know two car salesmen. They're both women. And one of the ways that they actually manage to sell cars is they are online all day, every day, like on Instagram stories and Instagram and Facebook, posting pictures, and they post pretty pictures of themselves with the cars, all that kind of stuff. They don't make enough money on a car sale to be able to pay a photographer, to come in and do it. Now, that doesn't mean trash that idea. I'm just throwing that out there as what you should anticipate as one of your potential obstacles. Now, when you talk about the idea that companies may try to sell products online versus going to the brick and mortar, yeah, you can bank on that. So the challenge is to try and look at different companies that are based in your area, right? Companies that you would be able to service realistically, and look at companies that are not online, and then reach out, talk to them, see if they have plans to try and go online to, to do sales that way. Or for that matter, maybe it's not even about selling online. Maybe it's a matter of, let's say it's a company that, I don't know, for some reason tractors come to mind, right? Let's say they make tractors. Maybe they don't need to necessarily go online, but they need to make brochures. They need more images of their products because they only have so much on their website at this point, and they know now that they're not going to be able to get people face-to-face with the product, so they need more images, more detail. Even with a car dealership, your challenge is to find the value proposition. If you're going to hopefully make money from them doing it, you may have to do it at a slightly lower rate. In other words, more volume for less money, but you need to find the value proposition. What are you going to be able to do for them that is actually going to make an impact for them, right? So all of these, definitely good possibilities, very, very good ideas, okay? The challenge is, just like with Alvin's ideas, you've kind of got to flush things out to see, how do you actually get people to part with their money, okay? So if you guys have some more questions, type them in, because that's everything that's in the chat window. Now, I had a couple that came in earlier, so I want to just switch over here to my Facebook group really quick. Doyle asked me a question about mannequins. He's looking for a mannequin to use for practice shoots. He knows that I use one. He's looking for some advice. Anything particular that he should know before selecting a mannequin? Any material that he should avoid, such as plastic? There's different kinds, etc. And then he goes on to ask, am I overthinking that? No, actually you're not, because I learned some things while shopping for a mannequin. So Doyle, let me just switch the screen over here, and I'm gonna share a link with you guys. So full disclosure, you can actually see me doing it. This is an affiliate link, right? So if you guys buy one of these, I'll make about $1, right? That's fine. Here's the link. But Doyle, this is the mannequin that I have. So you guys have all seen Lola in my videos. She's not here. She's in the other studio, okay? This is her. The things to consider, Doyle, they're all, we don't need that image. Where's the image I want? That's the image I want. They're all plastic, okay? But you can see that Lola has, essentially a functional anatomy. She's got a nose. She's got cheeks. She's got a chin, lips, breasts, all that kind of stuff, right? You want a mannequin that's going to allow you to create shadows and depth the same way that you would on a human face. What's great about a mannequin like this is that she's in two parts. The torso separates from the legs. So you can actually take the arms off too, and the head off if you want. But the torso separates. So if you've noticed many times in my videos, I have Lola sitting on a posing stool, just like I would have a subject sitting on a posing stool. So it's just the top half of her that is sitting on the stool, right? I would encourage you to get a wig. Now, be careful when you get the wig. If you're like me and you're a little OCD, when I first bought my Lola, I made the mistake of buying a cheap costume wig, like the kind you get at Halloween, in the costume store, or even like a Walmart. And the problem with those is you can't really style them. And when I say style, I don't mean do different things. I just mean make them look clean. They're always sloppy. They're always frizzy. They're always a mess. I wanted a wig that looked functional. So one of my makeup artists locally told me go to a wig store. And it just so happens there's a wig store in downtown Allentown. So I went into the wig store and I was able to get a wig. It's fake hair. It's not real hair, but it is designed to be styled. And I got it on clearance for $20. It was worth the $20 because that way every time I show you Lola in my videos and I use her to test, I'm not going nuts with the stray hair. I don't have to retouch it, all that kind of stuff. So I would get a wig, and then of course, be decent, put clothes on her, right? So just buy something cheap and throw it on her, and you're good to go. But that is the same mannequin that is my Lola. So that's the one that I would recommend. Okay. And then, let's see here. Andy Blakey, asked me about a Godox. Let me see if I can bring it up on Amazon here. It's a new Godox flash that's out. I saw this recently. Don't get all excited for those of you that are into the AD400s and all that kind of stuff. Let me switch the screen over. I will also share a link here on this one. Whoops, there we go. Let's try that one more time. There you go. So it's the Godox FV150, okay? Jacob, no problem. In fact, Jacob just mentioned that he was shocked how inexpensive the mannequin is. Actually, the prices are going up. 2 months ago, you could buy that mannequin for just under $50. but I'm sure it probably comes from China. Shipping's getting tougher, so the prices are starting to go. So, I wouldn't wait too long to buy one, guys, if you're going to buy one, because indeed, they're probably not made in the U.S. and the prices probably will go up. So, anyway, this Godox FV50 that you're seeing, it has it's a 150 watt strobe, but it's also got a continuous LED light in it that's like 12,000 lux, which is fairly bright. CRI of 95 plus, TCLI of 96 plus. Not that I'm exactly sure what the TCLI is, and I don't care. It's okay, but we'll figure that out for another conversation. But Andy's question was like, worth it or is it a gimmick? Excuse me. The only reason that it would be a gimmick is if you're just buying it because it's got an LED light in it. If you have use for being able to have a light that doubles as a strobe and also as a constant light source that has a functional brightness, then that's no gimmick. It's great light. If you guys remember, for quite a while I used the Interfit Honey Badgers, and prior to that I used the Pulse Buck Digibees. If you go back and you look at my videos on them, one of the things that I was so excited about them is the fact that they had the LED modeling lights in addition to the strobe. So it's nice every now and then to just be able to switch the strobe off and work with the LED light, because you're generally going to get a slightly softer light with it if you're using it in the same modifiers, in the same kind of arrangements that you do with the strobes. So if you are just building out a system, Andy, I would say, yeah, they're great. Obviously, they're not AC powered. They are, they're not battery powered. They are AC powered. So, of course, you do have to plug them in, but they work with the Bowens mount. They are interchangeable with the other Godox strobes in terms of the triggers and that kind of stuff. So, I actually find them to be, a really nice little unit. I have not used one, so I'm not speaking from experience on the unit, but I think that they're definitely a good idea for people that have a use for all of that, okay? And let's see here. I thought I had one other question that was in here, and I just want to make sure I didn't miss them, and I'll get these last questions that came in. Let's see. Here it was from Ajax. His question was, would one be considered irresponsible if one were to not cancel a shoot that's set for this weekend at this time? As the hour hand moves, more and more events are being canceled. The convenience of the web is great, but in regards to this new virus, depending on your inquiry, you can find information stating people are overreacting and also recommending taking extra precautions. Where can we find a reliable source of information? So a couple things, Ajax. Let me take your question from the end backwards, right? Reliable source of information, there are only two. And if you go look at their websites, there's tons of information. And that is the CDC, which is, I believe, in Atlanta in the United States. But they have a website. It's, cdc.org or gov, whichever it is, /COVID-19. And they have tons of information. And they update it daily with updates. And then also, of course, the World Health Organization, which is the overarching organization for the whole world. Those are the best sites for reliable information. That is information that's being put forth by the medical community, not by any government politician, not by any business, right? So that's that piece. Should you be taking extra precautions, regardless of what you do? Yes, we should all be taking extra precautions. And it's everything from the simple stuff that is, washing your hands, making sure you're doing it for 20 seconds, all that kind of stuff, not touching your face. I saw a great meme today. I mean, I hope, I really do. Like, obviously, this is not something to laugh at, but I do have to say, I'm the kind of person that when the chips are down, my feeling is if I can't laugh at myself or laugh at my situation, just go ahead and put me in the box and dig the hole, right? So I actually find comfort with so many of the memes that are showing up on Facebook and on social media. Obviously, at some point, somebody's going to take those memes too far, and they're going to become hurtful. But I particularly like the ones. There's one that's a picture of a cruise ship, and it's like special, special deal for a cruise ship. Buy 1 week cruise, get additional 2 weeks for free, that kind of stuff. You have to take extra precautions, right? I just think that that's extremely important. Period. So follow all the guidelines that they're showing you. In terms of would it be considered irresponsible for this weekend, that is a decision that from everything I've read today, that you could make comfortably between yourself, your subject, and indeed, if you are going to have a makeup artist, between them, okay? If any one of the three is not comfortable being a part of it, then you shouldn't be doing it, right? It's game over. That should not happen. If everyone is comfortable, then you should go the extra mile yourself. Make sure that you have plenty of hand sanitizer or hand wipes, things at the studio. Make sure that you're cleaning the studio down before and after you shoot. And make sure that you're giving all the people involved the warning. If you are feeling even just a tiny bit off on the day of the shoot, please cancel. I am begging you, please cancel. We will do it again. I will wait for you. I will wait until this virus passes. I'm excited to shoot with you. It is not worth the risk, right? Period. Unless you are getting directions from your local governments and your local medical professionals, and unless the directions from the CDC change, no, I think there's no reason. I have a couple shoots actually planned for next week, and I have every expectation that I will have those shoots, provided that the makeup artist and the model involved on the day of the shoot feel comfortable coming to the shoot. And believe me, I will be warning both of them aggressively if you do not feel 1,000,000% yourself. Do not come to my studio that day. So there's no solid guideline other than, I think at this point, folks, let's face it, an abundance of caution and diligence is one of your best defenses for all of this, not only from the standpoint of keeping yourself healthy, but also from the standpoint of liability, right? So I think that's key, okay? Joe's Photography, with products being delayed from overseas, will we see that Camera USA company make the same product here? No, I don't think so. No, I mean, camera companies are Japanese. They all are, right? They're going to stay there, except for, companies like Leica and that kind of stuff. They're going to stay there. We're not going to see camera companies pop up in the U.S. I am still of the mentality, Joe, this is in the big picture of life, this is going to be short term. Now, could this be a month, 3 months, 6 months? Could it be a year? Who knows, right? I mean, certainly it's possible, right? But yeah, I would like to think that we're not gonna get to that point. Jacob, off-topic question. I've been thinking about getting an emergency makeup kit. That is not off-topic, okay? For clients and learning how to use it. Any resources on where to start? I don't even wear makeup myself, so I know nothing. So a couple of things. There's tons of resources online for doing makeup. I mean, there's literally thousands of YouTube channels about doing makeup, and they're going to tell you all their favorite products and all that kind of stuff. However, Jacob, a couple of things. Understand that in most states you need to be, in most states you are supposed to be licensed to apply makeup, okay? Sometimes it's licensed as an esthetician, other times it's licensed as a cosmetologist. It depends on the state and the rules, etc. Brushes. We want to talk about viruses and getting people sick. Brushes. Brushes have to be cleaned really, really, really well between uses, okay? Your makeup. People are going to get more paranoid. So it is tough for makeup artists right now because, you dip a brush, you put makeup on a person's face or you do their eyes, and then you go back to the makeup with that brush, you've potentially contaminated that makeup. So even though you're going to go and you're going to clean the brush that night after you do that shoot, the very next day you're potentially going to go and dip into that same makeup with a clean brush, right? This is a really tough time to be a makeup artist. So I guess part of what I am saying there, Jacob, is I would maybe wait a little while until a lot of this settles down, but definitely do your research. Don't be too cavalier about it in the sense that you would potentially be opening yourself up to a lot of liabilities. But yeah, I mean, that is legitimately a concern. It would be really, really easy, for a makeup artist to basically spread the disease unknowingly if they are not being extremely careful with their techniques. So Stephen Muncie, if you do composites, now's a great time to acquire new images for later. Yeah, like to go around looking for backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's downtime, so it's all about, all about using your downtime effectively, right? Timber Geek, did I ever notice that the Godox flashes drain the batteries when not in use? I started leaving the doors open or removing the batteries. I don't know so much that it's the Godox batteries draining, or the Godox flashes draining the batteries. I haven't had that experience, Timber Geek. The 4 Godox 8200s, as an example, that are in my travel case that I travel all over with, the batteries stay in those batteries like forever. They never come out. I have not had that situation. Do understand that a lithium battery will lose its charge over time. It drains automatically. So if you're actually having them drain, I would be a little bit more concerned that there's something going on with the flash, or maybe they're not getting turned off properly. But if it's working for you when you leave the door open or pop in the battery, if that works, then cool. So all right. Jim Kearns, you mentioned earlier those who produce quality work justify their rates. For those who aren't quite there yet, where does profitable become greedy? Is this a moving target? It's very much a moving target, Jim. So let's, that's actually a good question, but I think maybe you're kind of looking at it from slightly the wrong angle. So let me take a step back and let me give you kind of an overarching thought process first. It has nothing to do with photography. This was a lesson that I first learned the basic statement, the line, the phrase, supply and demand. I learned it like in 9th grade, I think. It was probably in a social studies class for something. I don't remember exactly what, but I remember early on this concept of supply and demand. Well, supply and demand is essentially what drives prices, right? The next great phrase to put right in line behind supply and demand is the phrase perceived value. I could say, this water, best doggone water you have ever had. I'll give you this bottle, brand new, freshly packed, for $300. And you're probably going to look at me like you're nuts and say, yeah, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn that I can sell you, right? So it's all about perceived value. One of the things that photographers struggle with in general in today's world, given that almost anyone can pick up a phone and take a half-decent photo because the computers that we use are capable of that. Because of that, the perceived value of photography in many cases is lower than it used to be 10, 20, 30 years ago. So, it's not about being greedy if you can get it. Unfortunately, it's just not. But you're not going to get people to pay you that money. And part of the reason why I made the comments I did about PPA, and once again, I'm going to repeat it, I love PPA. I'm not saying that, and I'm not sponsored by them by any way. I'm a paying member. I pay my dues every year, just like every other member does. But the simple fact of the matter is, I just feel it was horrible advice they were giving people by handing in these templates and saying, oh, you should use this to justify your work, right? That doesn't work. At the same time, I don't think it's a wise idea to be greedy in the sense of like a snake oil salesman, spinning this incredible tale to make things seem better or more valuable than what they really are, and finding the suckers that will pay for it. I'm a firm believer that when you find a sucker, you're going to get one sale. That's it, one sale. Every portrait and wedding photographer that I have ever known in my entire career that has been successful, they have approached their clientele as if they were new family members. And their goal was to have those clientele for life. Shoot a young woman's senior portrait and make sure she has an amazing time. 5 years later, she comes back for you to do her engagement photos. 6 years later, she wants you to do her wedding. 2 years later, she wants you to do her newborn photos. 3 years later, she wants a nice big family portrait. 4 years later, another newborn photo. 5 years later, another family portrait. Customers for life. The snake oil salesman that is greedy and gets that one juicy sale, they're going to figure that out, and they're not going to come back, right? So I hope that helps. But that's kind of my look at it there. Okay. Let's see here. 1980 COG. I have photography equipment currently coming from Hong Kong. Would you be concerned about possible contamination? You know, look, I'm not the right person to say that, but here's what I'm going to hope for. So number one, I would expect that our customs people are probably already dealing with this in certain ways, or at least I would hope that we are dealing with this, in some degrees with customs. Secondly, what you might want to do is go to the World Health Organization website. They have maps that are showing you the outbreak clusters around the world. See how bad it is in Hong Kong. See, how much of it you can trace, your piece of gear back to where this has been happening, just to get a sense of, hey, is there a lot going on there or not really a lot going on there? And then indeed, at the same time, I would start Googling. Google's this amazing thing, right? I would start Googling. I'm willing to bet by now, if we started Googling, like, is there anything I can do to decontaminate a package? That type of stuff. There are probably some guidelines or some suggestions at least. So if you have any concerns, I would follow those guidelines. Just based on the fact that you've asked me this question, I would do a little research, right? And I think it would be wise due diligence to do some research. I don't think you're being stupid by being concerned. I don't think that it is inappropriate that you're concerned. I would suggest it would be inappropriate for you to just dismiss your concerns and not do anything. But unfortunately, I don't know, and I don't want to say, oh my God, I'd be really worried, because I don't know that I'm really worried. Like, I'm honestly, myself, I'm not terribly worried about getting sick. Again, when I read what the CDC is saying, when I read what the World Health Organization is, I am now at the bottom of that demographic that is at risk, but I'm very healthy. So I'm not super worried about it, and I do pay attention to my health. If I were to start to get sick in any way, shape, or form, I'm not too proud to go to a doctor and say, hey, here's what's going on. Please let me know one way or the other. So I'm not that worried about the sickness aspect of it. But you have to trust your own gut instincts in that, and don't let anybody tell you you're wrong. I mean, that's one of the problems. We get people that love to bully people on this. And the only wrong here is not, number one, not being smart and sensible based on the guidelines we're being given, and then not trusting your own instincts. So I would definitely at least, do a little bit of research. Okay. Let's see here. I missed a couple. Scrolling back up. FN89. Do I have any photographers, books, or other avenues to learn about boudoir photography? I've done a few shoots, but they're mostly done in workshops. So then, honestly, FN89, my advice is going to be the same as it always is. Forget the damn books. Forget the photographers on YouTube. Go pick up your camera and schedule some, right? And make some mistakes and study your work, right? Guys, we all, and FN89, I'm not picking on you, but here comes a little mini rant, right? A little mini rant to wind up the show tonight. Photographers, all of us, we're kind of stupid. Me too, right? So I'm not trying to insult any of you, but hear me out. What do? We get interested in photography for whatever reason. A lot of times it starts with one of these, or maybe you had an Instamatic camera back in the day, whatever, right? But the fact of the matter is, we get interested in photography and we go out and we spend some money and we buy a nice camera. And then we buy a better camera, we buy more lenses. And if you're a Sony user, you do that every 6 months, right? No, I'm kidding, that's not the joke. There's no joke. Seriously, I shouldn't have said that. I'm kidding, right? But here's the thing. Once we get all this money invested and we get these cameras, we are no longer happy with just a picture. It has to be epic. In fact, it has to be epic or we won't press the button. Come on, be honest. How many of you in the last couple of months, probably in the last few weeks, have seen something, driving to work, walking down the street, whatever, you've seen something and thought to yourself, oh, I should take a picture of that, but then immediately stopped yourself. Immediately stopped and said, the lighting's not very good, or I don't have the right lens, or I can't get close enough, and you had an excuse for not taking the picture because you knew, even though something inspired you and said, oh, I should photograph that, you knew that you could not make an epic picture, so you didn't take the picture. So FN89, I'm going to push you. I know you follow me every week. I know you know where I teach from, and it's from the heart, right? I get it that you want to be able to make great pictures. But the best way to make great pictures is to go make really, really bad pictures. So the only problem with where you're at, so you've done it in workshops, great. You did it with everybody else doing the planning. You don't need a book. Just go plan it. You need to do a couple boudoir shoots that suck. They're horrible. But then you have to take the time. You have to invest the time to go back through the experience and to look at your photos and say, why? What would make the difference? And then you go back and you do it all over again with the changes from what you've learned. I promise you, I swear to you, you will learn so much more, so much faster if you do that. That is why I keep telling you folks, my YouTube videos are just meant to be a reference. If you're struggling with something like the inverse square law, go watch my video. It will help you. And at the end of the video, what do I tell you? If you think you understand the inverse square law because you watched my video, you're wrong. You have to take what you saw in this video and now you have to go and try it. You have to experience it to learn it. So, that being said, I would strongly suggest you just dive in. Okay? All right, gang, listen, great talk tonight, even though I did like 99% of the talking. We didn't get a lot of questions in. I'm really sorry about that, but I think it's an important topic. And I really, really mean it. Please, 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 please. This is not a personal thing. This is an industry thing. Stop rewarding these people that are doing damage to the industry. Stop helping them cost you more money. We all survive this if we help each other. We all survive this if we look out for each other. Share what you know. Look out for others. Be kind to others. Be helpful. Okay? So gang, as always, thank you for spending an evening with me. Looking forward to the next week. Remember, make sure you're following me on Facebook, Instagram. Got some cool stuff coming up the next couple days. I'm going to try a lot of different stuff over the next few weeks and the next months if that's what it takes. But in the meantime, whatever you do, please remember.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TOGCHAT. Now, pick up that camera and shoot something because your best shot is your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.